Hey everybody, welcome back to the Spin Rack. This is Mars here, and today we're going to be talking about the Thunderbolts. Why did Marvel create the Thunderbolts? Are they basically a knockoff of Suicide Squad? So let's take a look at this. Thunderbolts started in 1997. The creators were Kurt Busiek, the writer, and Mark Bagley, the artist. Marvel needed a fresh concept following Onslaught and the Heroes Reborn events, where many of the major heroes, Avengers, FF, Fantastic Four, had disappeared or were presumed dead. So a brand new team of heroes appeared out of nowhere to protect the world. But here's the twist about Thunderbolts number one. What's revealed at the very end of the comic is that it was bad guys who were the Thunderbolts. These were the masters of evil, and they were in disguise. And of course, they were led by none other than the Master Supremo himself, Baron Zemo, the leader of Hydra, posing as heroes to, get the sympathy or the trust of the public and take over the world. It's just they're not just they weren't just heroes. They were villains pretending to be heroes. That was something that Marvel hadn't done before in the past, so that really threw a lot of people up for a rock. And it was a heck of a storyline when you first looked at it. But let's take a look at the similarities between the Suicide Squads and the Thunderbolts. Both are teams of anti-heroes and villains, because whereas in the Thunderbolts, initially they were basically villains pretending to be heroes. Later on, some of the later stories, you actually have some like anti-heroes, people who were villains who wanted to be good. In Suicide Squads, you basically had bad guys who had bombs in the back of their necks or their heads by the government, forcing them to do, to help the government. The key thing here, though, is redemption is, and we see that in Thunderbolts, it's some want to reform, and the same thing also goes with the Suicide Squad, where some of them want to just, do the right thing. Big differences was that the Suicide Squad, which was created back in '87, almost a decade before, by John Ostrander, is basically a government-backed special forces group, black ops in essence, Members, like I said before, they have a bomb in their heads or in their necks that is put in there by the government, namely Amanda Waller, to control them. And if they don't do what's told, their head explodes. They basically stay under the radar. They're not supposed to know who's going there. And another thing, too, Amanda Waller doesn't care if they die. They can die whenever they want. So Thunderbolts was originally a lie, and that was the key thing there. They became a legit team at different times, controlled by different people. But here's another thing too: is that many times this one group was led by various villains. Norman Osborn from Spider-Man, Luke Cage, who's a good guy, the Red Hulk, Bucky Barnes, who was another hero. But they basically were like a team that was out there. Everybody knew about this team. They weren't undercover like some other teams. They were a public superhero team, Whereas, we talk about Suicide Squad, they're undercover, and no one's supposed to know that. So basically, they are not a knockoff. They're two very distinct teams with different origins and different philosophies. All right, Thunderbolts. Some of their best running storylines was Thunderbolts, of course, from 1997 when it was started, from issue 1 to 12. The original run where the villains as heroes twist. Basically, whether some villains really want to change or stay the way they were. And this was a very popular run when it actually happened. Number 2, Dark Reign. Now, Dark Reign, where Norman Osborn was the boss of the group. Andy Diggle was the person behind it. Osborn is controlling the group. It's a black ops team during Dark Reign. They have no morality. They're brutal. And this is when it feels that when it is basically closest to what Suicide Squad is. The Bolts during Civil War era. This was written by Warren Ellis. Basically, when it becomes a state-sponsored team after the Superhuman Registration Act, they are definitely, they're tools of the government, and we understand that's what they're being used for. And so both groups definitely operate in where they both are tools of the government. One is a covert op, another one used to enforce government policies. But probably one of the biggest themes is that both of them have villains that definitely are anti-heroes who want to redeem themselves, who want to do something bigger than what they're doing. And, the question is, do you see that Harley Quinn? Do you really believe that she really wanted to change her ways, or whether or not she wanted to be continue being a supervillain? I think at this stage she wants to be on her own, but you also have the same thing with many of the other Thunderbolts. So hey, if you like what you hear, give us a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and what do you think the difference between the Thunderbolts and the Suicide Squads are. Spinner Rack, out.